you wish to prick up your ears and receive the tale of Skoova?
If you're sharing stories, we'll listen.
Then you be a fool, my lad. A sordid tale will bring you nothing but grief and woe.
Okay, well, if you're not sharing stories, we'll...
Oh, fine, I'll tell you. At your own insistence, and at your own peril. My story begins in a small village on the frozen banks of Skoova, my home world. Nights black as quillfish in it. Winters so cold, a stern look could turn you to glass.
Doesn't sound like the easiest place to grow up.
Difficult, aye. From the moment your mother's milk froze on your tongue to the moment you found it upon frozen streets. You see, the fishes, they had the right of it. They dwelt far below the ice, where warm currents danced like ribbons in the wind. To fish so scarce a quarry, on account of the great fish famine, well, it's nae a mild undertaking. But for all me belly-aching now, there's a peaceful enough life for a wee Skovian with an instinct for the road.
So you discovered your talent early.
Such a talent was I, that as a lad, nae hardly sporting my first prickly chin hair, I was given an audience with Undone. But that be a tale for another time. Where were we? Ah, yes. By virtue of my prodigious fishing talents, I was taken to see the mysterious one they call Undone. I can see it still. Wee Skoova, ushered into yon black-mouthed cave. I could barely make out the figure, glinting with moonlight. I scrubbed my eyes, like a old tar scrubbing the deck. And there she was, a vast creature. Great tentacles blooming from her blubber, like cables gorging on a fuel tank. One of the tentacles twitched into the air, just over my head, and then, wham! Right on my noggin, so I'm told. I staggered out the cave like a lover first acquainted with a deck. But something else happened. I think when that fell tentacle struck me, Undone took something straight out of my brain and put something else in.
She put something in your brain?
Aye, boy. The subtle art of catching a fish. The art of focus. And in the dark, with nothing but the bristles on your chin for company, that focus is special. From that day forward, when I plunged my line into the frigid waters, it would emerge with a fish. 3 times out of 7.
That's less than half.
My village told me that I'd be the one to save them from the great fish famine. Little did I know that the grapnel was soon to arrive on our shores.
Gonna assume that's a bad thing.
Perhaps, lad. And perhaps not. But that'll be a story for another time. The tale continues. When we last spoke, I warned of the grapnel's arrival. That great ship came descending on us like an anchor cutting the deep. Ne'er a more fearsome ship did you clamp eye on. She was sharp, like a fish, like the nose of a bony fish. She had 3 great claws. Aye, the landing gear. But when her great jaws parted, aye, the loading ramp. Will you hush and let Skoova tell the story? Her great jaws parted, disgorging her dread crew. A more vile pack of fisher folk yet never did see. And led by the vilest of them all, Captain One-Yek Wet, the bearded, bezel-less bat that he intended to fish in our waters. Trophy hunters they were, in search of the most rare catches. Well, we Skovians refused. We had the great famine to contend with, see? Every fish was precious. But the ferocious captain didn't care for our troubles. With a belch, he produced from his creel a mighty harpoon. Wait, cried wee Skoova, hopping off of his rock. I know these waters like the taste of my own tongue. There'll be few fish beneath yon ice. But, continued I, if you take me with you, and if you leave my village be, I could show you how to coax the rarest of fishes onto your line. Aye. The dread captain stroked his briny beard. After a long moment, he held out his hand and grinned most terribly. "Lad," said he, "you be in luck. I'll be requiring another for my crew, one who knows the curve of the sea." Oh, Cal. If I could only go back to that moment when I shook Captain Wet's rigid hand. If only I'd never stepped off my wee rock. But my encounter with Undan had given me a taste for the unknown. I couldn't resist the call of adventure, and I had to save my people. So, I left with the grapnel, thinking the business done. I would be a fisher for Captain Wet. Of course, my adventure had only begun. For just when the grapnel hit orbit...
More trouble, I take it?
Ah, but I've havered on long enough. Come back another time and I'll tell you more. So, you wish to hear of a time on the grapnel with the crew of the dread Captain Wanyak Wet?
Let's hear it.
Aye. My tenure began with quite a bump. The moment the grapnel hit orbit, her claxons began to sing. A barrack ship full of lawful types swam out to the stars and hailed us. "What be the meaning of this?" growled our captain. "We're simple fisher folk." "Your transponder codes tell a different tale," came the reply. "You be standing on stolen property, you do." "Aye, you've rightful caught us," said the captain. "Come on aboard, and I'll surrender what was stolen." But scarcely had the lubbers set boot on the deck of the grapnel, when wham! The captain's harpoon skewered them like a quailfish on a spit. "Now you can't do that when you're running line, can you?" said the captain to me, grinning in his foulsome way. I'm sorry to say that I picked up the harpoon that black day. For years, I did not toss a fish back into the sea when I caught her. Well, that is until... Blubbered you to death. I'll continue my tale soon, lad. Aye, so we returned to my time on the grapnel. Against the protestations of my heart, I forsook the rod and line for the harpoon. For years, we trawled the outer rim, spearing every fish that happened across our path. Talented as I was, I speared more fish than the rest of the crew, put together. Fool as I was, I didn't have the wisdom to be ashamed. The dread Captain Wanyak Wet took notice. He showered me in brevets, gave me the best of catches, and scarcely a year after I left Skev, I became his first mate. Shortly after my promotion, we were on our way to Manan to sell the carcass of a gooberfish. But, wham! Just as we dove out of hyperspace and the great ocean world streaked into view, so did she. The most glorious creature I'd ever beheld. A whale of marvelous proportion. Swimming through Manan's orbit like it was nothing but an easterly current back home. I was transfixed.
No kidding. How close did you get?
Funny you should ask. I didn't have long to set my eyes above before he crashed headlong into her. The grapnel bounced off her like chum off flotsam. We plummeted down to the ocean, sundering the grapnel on the sea floor, where a gang of pirate quarren were holed up. The filthy Zephyrs. We swam out to the riven hull and found ourselves surrounded by quarren, demanded all manner of things, including our bounty of fish. So, away we swam, Captain Wet, the crew, and myself. But, blind as we were at such depth, we shortly ran into a dead end, finding ourselves surrounded by quarren. Find me again, and I'll continue the tale.
So Skoova, whatever happened with the pirates?
So there we were, 4 quarren, armed with spears, each way a mind to make a mantelpiece of my wee rubbery head. I looked over to me captain, and he stared right back, waving his arms like a gooberfish in heat, at the harpoon I held in my hand. Oh, for a black instant, I considered nailing those pirate quarren to the rocks with my harpoon. But something stopped me from pulling the trigger. Perhaps it was the sparkle that caught my eye. The sparkle of a passing glumbrig eel. What would those pirates say to a whole school of glumbrig eels, a crackle and a sparkle as they be, thought I. So I opened my wee mouth and emitted the mating call of the eel.
You speak eel?
Aye, but I forgot to turn on me comm. We Skoova alone heard the cry. But that demented expression put such a fright on the Quarren that they dropped the blasters. By the time they'd come to the senses, we were swimming away as fast as our flippers could carry us. It was only later, as we fled aboard the Zephyr's schooner, that I realized how close the real danger was. But I shall continue my tale next time. Where did we end? Ah, yes. The monstrous Captain Wet, his crew and myself fled aboard the pirate schooner of the filthy Zephyrs. Well, fast as the morning thaw, I could tell something was off. Wanyek, he wouldn't look me in the eye. Oh, and a dreadful stench was a brewing his rotten beard. An augur of fate most ill. Wanyek took the helm, and with landing claws away we flew to deep space, putting a few lifetimes between us and those pirates. We found ourselves afield of the Parlimian Trade Route. As soon as the captain took his hand off the yoke, he put it on his harpoon and gave me a look, like a half-starved tuka cat eyeing sprat. Skoova, snarled the vile captain, you've gone as soft as an oyster's navel. If I couldn't trust you to spare a Quarren with their blaster in your mouth, I couldn't trust you to skewer the great goober fish. My hesitance to pull the trigger had me undone. In spite of my most rabid pleas, the captain jettisoned wee Skoova in an escape pod. The last thing I saw was his dread smile, crooked like a bayman's backbone. And so, my time aboard the grapnel met a briny end. Sitting alone in a pod, in deep space, with nothing but a tank of old cod and gash. I'll tell you more later, lad. The despair, the stench. It's enough to set my stomach a churn to this very day.
So Skoova, back to your story. Were you actually marooned in deep space by Captain Wet?
Aye, lad. There I sat, tummy a-rumble, gazing out at the void. My somber reflection staring back from the porthole. Was it hours? Years? Neither would faze me. But I do recall this. After a term most interminable, there she was, like a bowsprit cutting through a crest. The great space whale, still sporting the grapnel's imprint on her side, emerged from a parted void. Aye, even now it brings the salt to my eyes. Her great blubbery undulations tossed me pod through the stars like a goose-winged skiff. The stars swirled about like 100,000 fishes until suddenly I saw a planet below. There my pod crashed, and there I was rescued by kindly locals. I had been saved by this marvelous creature from the depths of space. I tried searching for her. Alas, to no avail. She eluded me for years before I packed my satchel and headed home for Skev. Most didn't believe what I'd seen. They say she was not but the terminal spasm of a starving salt's brain. But I know what I saw, lad. I know what I saw. Of course, when I returned home, things were not as I remembered them. But that be a tale for another time. So, after years of searching for the great whale, I returned home to the frozen shores of Skev, where my tale began. And this world on which I was weaned and warmed seemed but a moon to me careworn eyes. So small. I foot-slogged my way back to Undun's cave, but I found it empty, and somehow colder than I remembered. You know, lad, sometimes the truth brings peace, and sometimes it brings sadness. The fish is nae always what you thought it'd be when it bit the line. I dragged myself out of that cave and back to my village. And what I discovered next sent a spar through me thrice-pickled belly. All me kith and kin, old and bairn, ravaged by famine and cold. For none other than Captain Wanyek Wet had been fishing in their waters, sparing what few fish remained and taking them off-world. And so it was that I found myself once again in search of the dread captain and his crew. Not just for my own justice, but to liberate my very home. When we next speak, I'll tell you what became of my crusade. mine. Aye, our story nears its end. I discovered that Captain Whit was plundering my very home seas for exotic fish, and in the process, starving the old tars who raised me from a wee yoke. I spent many months in search of them. At long last, I discovered them on the salted shores of the third moon of Antine. I hied to Antine and trucked me foe to the Garacus Trench, a fissure sliced clean through the moon's heart. There, amongst the brine and black, I found him. Wanyak Whit and his vile crew, surrounded by glumbering eels, spearing them with their harpoons. "Captain," I cried, "you've broken your promise never to harvest the seas of Sakavitar." And I said, "Your command be forfeit if you dinna forswear my home waters." Oh, I'll scarce forget the snarl he issued as he turned to me, slow as a frozen reef, regarding me after years of thinking me dead. "This," he growled, "is why you dinna toss the fish back into the sea." Before I could shake my flippers, the barb of his harpoon spun through the deep, and its hook pierced me in the chest. My juices filled the water, and as my vision grew dark, I espied Wanyak, smiling sharp as a fang.
That's horrible, Skoova.
I told you, lad, that mine be a dark tale. I'll tell you more when next we meet. So there I was, deep in the Garacus Trench, Wanyak's harpoon drilled through me paunch, watching the lights fade from my own eyes. The dread captain peeled his whiskers from his teeth and grinned a most ghastly grin, when suddenly I saw the glumbering eels a-swirl. It seemed that, in the midst of my distraction, they'd taken flight. It dawned on me. I recalled to me mind the great meeting call of the eels, my last hope. So, rousing my final gasp of air, I sounded their shrill cry.
What happened?
Well, lad, I'll tell you. The eels swarmed in an electric blaze. The dread crew scattered, and Wanyak, that damned Wanyak, that dread captain, was cooked like an evening quillfish. As the eels smote him into the deep, I felt consciousness run out to my ears. Darkness fell upon me. When I awoke, well, find me again, and I'll conclude my tale. When I awoke from my last duel with Wanyak, it was on the deck of a fishing schooner. It seemed my speared carcass had bogged to the surface and been caught by a local fisher.
What about Captain Wet? Did he survive?
If that sack of seared slime yet plagues the galaxy, I've nae heard stem the stern of him, nor of his crew. Perhaps more importantly, the ordeal awoke me to the truth. I had no desire to spear fish, nor fisher. I had no desire to cross harpoons with dread captains, or to skewer the deadliest fish. In the hurly-burly of it all, I lost sight of myself. The fisherwoman who caught me, she knew of a nearby world with a great multitude of fishes. Kobo. So to Kobo did I go. And since, I've realized why I like to fish.
Why's that?
Because I like fish, Cal. I like shiny fish. I like big fish and small fish. I like fish with eyes splayed wide and fish with eyes pointed straight. I even like fish with no eyes at all. And I like seeing the face on lovers like you when they realize just how many kinds of fish there are in this galaxy. Well, that be my tale, Cal. Perhaps it was no as gloomy as a kid.
You went through a lot. I'm glad you're okay, Skoova.
Oh, thank you, lad.
Thank you. You've given me a lot to think about.
Aye, lad. Go ahead and ponder. But don't ponder your years down the river. There's always another fish. Well, lad, we've done it. A tank throbbing with the finest fish. A tale told to the utmost. An innocent young boy's eyes opened to the wide galaxy.
Something like that. What's next for you?
I've been asking myself just that. In recounting my infamous annals, I've been... something's gnawing at my innards, lad. A black notion that perhaps, just perhaps, one yek wit isn't truly dead. For Sakavitar, and for my own peace, I must know. Perhaps it'll be tomorrow. Perhaps a year from tomorrow. But I fear I must pursue my dread nemesis one last time.
I understand. Hey, if you ever need anything.
I know, lad. I know.